We're finding an eternal you in the horizon, and Rose is experiencing all kinds of kindness. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball with COVID, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Well, hello and welcome back, and there we go. It took me all of 3 seconds to slide in the fact that I'm on my COVID bed right now, not feeling great. But, you know, as ever, I'm always here with you, Van, to go through the movies, the latest releases and the films that you've seen that we haven't.
Sexiest looking sick man I've ever seen, Ball. Sexiest looking, far and away. You're doing very well. I'm dying of hay fever, if it helps. I mean, the summer is firmly here, so I can't see straight. I literally, I'm trying everything not to rub my eyes constantly and sniffle. I'm dying here. But you obviously have your own dying condition to deal with. But you know what? I've got a week of good movies for you. So I'm gonna redeem the week somewhat for you and give you at least something to look forward to and something to watch. How about that?
Okay, no, that sounds good to me. We've got Eternal You to look at, Horizon, American Saga, Chapter 1, Kinds of Kindness. But we're going to start with something I actually got a bit excited with, first of all, because I thought it was called Rosé and it was about wine, but sadly it's not.
Yeah, I see. As soon as you thought there was a beverage involved, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
You're basically the Big Lebowski, the Ball Lebowski, as it were. So we start with Rose this week, which is the new movie written, directed by Niels Arden Oplev. And he directed, he's a director and producer who I think was involved in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. You remember the original foreign language version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Remember before?
Yes, I did try to watch it.
Yeah, when the books were everywhere and you had the 3 original movies, yeah, he was the guy behind the original movies before like Fincher took it over for the English language ones. So he's back, and believe me, this could not be further apart from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo if you tried. Okay, so. This is a story, effectively, about 2 sisters, adult, like middle-aged sisters from Denmark, who take a coach trip. One of them brings their husband along for the ride as well, and they go on this coach trip to Paris. And they are doing this effectively for Rose, who is the central character of it all. It's played by Inga. Sorry, Inga is the central character of it, played by Sophie. I'm going to mess up the pronunciation. I'm just going to say Greyball. How about that? I'll just say Greyball. Sophie Greyball. I appreciate I may have gotten that wrong, but that's it's post.
Oh, looking at the spelling, I think you've got it right.
You think I've got it right? Do you know what?
Maybe Grabball.
Yeah, I live in post-Brexit Britain. We don't get taught this stuff anymore. So, yeah, I'm going to blame that. So, Inga has mental health conditions. She's had a breakdown, and she lapses into a life in which she is dependent on medication, on psychological pharmaceutical medications to manage her conditions, largely for outbursts and inappropriate things that she says. We learn through the course of this story, this has all been brought on by a breakup that she has had, a traumatic breakup earlier in her life, and that this sent her spiraling. Her older sister, at the behest of their mother, then takes her on this coach trip. And it is a proper, like, Channel 4 coach trip, right? To Paris. Brilliant. From Denmark. They're going like a tourist trip to Paris. They're going to go and see the museums, etc. Except Inga had this breakup in Paris. So this is kind of a return to, the scene of the crime kind of thing to an extent. And they want Inga to go through this and experience this and just kind of get past it. And it's about these sisters overcoming their bickering, their differences, and about Inga really finding a place. She starts to find a sort of a place in this weird little community that exists out of the other people on this coach trip, who see her as an oddball who simply says outlandish things. And he starts telling children about, the time she did deeply sexual acts with her previous partners and things like that. Very weird, off-kilter, like Dr. House level stuff. But really, really gripping, fascinating, moving, and above all else, hilarious stuff. And you've got Sophie Greyball there as Inga, as the central character, and it's really something. All subtitled, And, obviously, I'm sorry, Mr. Ball, I know this is where we lose you. I know we lose you. You're dubs, not subs. I'm subs, not dubs, baby. That's how this goes. The raid deserves to be seen in its original tongue. By the way, have you watched the raid yet? I know we do this every time we have a subtitle movie. I ask, I'm going to keep asking, have you watched the raid yet?
No, I mean, I could have watched it this week because I've been in bed all week, but I've been asleep, unfortunately.
You've been off work all week with bloody COVID, and you've still not managed to find the time to watch that. For shame. What? Honestly.
It takes concentration.
You're earning that paycheck, sir. That's what it is. But do watch the raid. And I'll tell you something, we are going to be talking, by the way, about the raid a lot next week. You will discover why at the end of the show. But we are going to be talking about the raid a lot at the end of the week because something very comparable is coming next week. Worst screening experience of my life, but close to the raid. Close. Anyway, we're not talking about the raid, which is awesome, and you absolutely should see. If you've never seen the raid, absolutely see the raid. I think it's on Netflix. Do watch the raid. In the meanwhile, though, also watch Rose, which I thought was really good. I was really taken in by this. That central performance, Sophie Grenville's performance, is, I thought, brilliant. I think she manages to really walk a very fine line with this character and this persona. And because it's a character that could very easily tip over. You could tip this over into just deeply inappropriate, to be honest. You could come away, if it wasn't funny and it wasn't charming, it would be a very unlikable character. And you would come away feeling like, this just didn't work. It's very inappropriate, very jarring, just didn't work. Yeah, thankfully they curtail that rather nicely. And I am going to put that down to the two biggest assets that I think Rose has, which is, first of all, the script by Oplev, which I think is phenomenal. I think it's a really good script, but also that performance. And it's not a twitchy performance, but it is a very withdrawn, very distant performance. She's that kind of a person. It's very much as she will stare at you blankly and then pause. There'll be a silence in the air, and she will then, she'll respond to you, but then add just this little PS of something that is really inappropriate, but you go with it, and it's kind of charming in how she does. And watching the way in which the supporting cast start to rally around her, the supporting characters start to embrace her, start to weirdly love her in the moment, I found really heartwarming. It's a film that I didn't expect an awful lot of. I'll be honest with you, I would have watched it on Link at home, except for the fact that I was at a screening, which was kind of a big screening. I was at a big screening that morning. It was the one after. And I very nearly skipped it and asked for the link because we went for a drink after. I was with... I'll get to it. Anyway, I'm glad I saw this on the big screen because I was sat there in this. I was immersed. I was enchanted. I was absolutely hooked. I would like to think that I would have been had I watched it at home. But I thought this was a certified banger. I really loved it.
Did you get to see much of the beautiful streets and scenery of Paris in this, or did they kind of skip most of that?
No, because I think about half the movie, they're in Paris by about the halfway mark. And I think it represents a very real version of Paris. It's worth noting as well, it's a period piece. But in a very weird way, it takes place, it's set literally 6 weeks after the death of Diana. Because there's an ongoing story thread where there's a taxi driver who doubles as tour guide who wants to take them, who takes them through the tunnel, and we see the memorial. And fun aside, by the way, I was in that tunnel 2 weeks earlier. 2 weeks prior to the death of Diana, I went to Disneyland Paris.
Wow.
And my parents and my sister, I had a couple of days in Paris. We went through that tunnel, and it was literally about a fortnight before the death of Diana. This was in 97. And the reason I always remember is because, there was Men in Black marketing, because the first Men in Black was out around then. And the marketing was everywhere as well. And, I always remember that. Very weird experience then, 2 weeks later, when Diana died. I'm like, oh, God, I remember that. But the way in which that's dealt with as well is because it timestamps this. It's not really essential to the plot at all. It's very much an aside. Like, I can't figure out specifically why you would add it. Like, why that's a thing when you've written this screenplay. Do you know what? I'm going to set this in 97. We'll mention that it's 6 weeks after Die. Yeah, I can't figure out why that's a thing, but within the context of like what actually involves, I think they deal with it rather well. I think it's done rather nicely.
Well, if you want to see it, you can, because Rose is in cinemas from today. Is it selected cinemas, I'm assuming?
I think it's pretty wide. I mean, it is, for the most part, it is selected. But I think if you've got a Cineworld near you, I think there's what they will be showing this in the Cineworld, for instance. Curzon's most certainly, and I think an Everyman as well.
Right, well, it is in cinemas from today. Just look out for Rose. Okay, next movie. I cannot wait to find out what you thought about this, because the premise of this on paper is exactly up my street.
It's also a Black Mirror episode.
Well, if you've ever thought about talking to the dead, the next movie might be for you. It's called Eternal You, and we'll see what Van thought next. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We've still got 3 movies to cover this time round. We're going to look at Kinds of Kindness in a bit, Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1. But right now, the movie from this week that I am most looking forward to finding out more about, because on paper, this is absolutely right up my street. It's called Eternal You. It's in cinemas from today, and it's all about AI and talking to dead people, basically, Van. That's what I gather.
Yeah, it's a lot like the Black Mirror episode with Donald Gleason and Hayley Atwell, which I think was in the second series. This is back when Black Mirror was still largely a British show. There was, of course, the episode of Black Mirror in which Hayley Atwell was a bereaved widow and her partner had passed, and he was Donald Gleason. And she used a new AI service to effectively create a facsimile of him that started as text-based and wound up getting put into an android. Here we have a documentary about the real-world answer to that. This largely concerns, I think, really 3 startup tech companies that have made a business out of this, out of providing simulations of the deceased for the purposes of effectively helping through the grieving process, of mental health tools effectively. And of these 3 companies, you have one that, in the first one we were introduced to is text-based. So it's like ChatGPT, but it has the personality of your loved one, your recently passed loved one. Like, let's say I have a wife who's passed of a terminal condition. I put all of my messages, I give it access to all of my messages, photos, videos, correspondence, any interaction I've had with, my lost wife, and they would, it would then assume her persona and it would interact with me on a text level. You then have a second company that takes it a step further, where it's on a screen and it's a virtually generated synthetic version of your partner, complete with the voice, who can then interact back and forth with you. You then have the third one, and this is when you go to South Korea, where suddenly people are donning MetaQuest VR helmets and actually going into virtual reality and interacting with their departed. It's absolutely fascinating. It's heartwarming and horrifying in equal measure. You will go through the emotional ringer with this, but give you a little snippet of what we're talking about. Here's a clip. This is Eternal You.
If you have the chance to talk to someone that died, that you love, would you take it?
Artificial intelligence promises us what religion does. You don't have to die. You can be reborn someplace else in a different form.
The first conversation I had with the Jessica simulation, it said things that were almost uncannily like her.
We are on the verge of a new era.
Hi? It's like it's the funniest thing. It's like, what's the first thing you say to someone that's dead? Like, Welcome back.
I really love the sound of this. In fact, moments ago talking about it, the setup reminded me a bit of, and I'm not going to remember the name because I'm rubbish with names of movies, but what's that gaming movie where he has to wear like this setup and like he stands on almost like a treadmill and he's running through this game and there's like Easter eggs to find and like, I forgot what it's called. Is it Game Over or something?
Are you thinking of Ready Player One by any chance?
That's
the
it.
Spielberg.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't know if we're getting the sequel, because there is a sequel to the novel that's open. Apparently, it's terrible. Apparently, Ready Player 2 is terrible.
Oh, no.
I can believe it. If I'm honest, I could believe it. But, yeah, there's a sense of that, too. Right, this is very much... I mean, it's up my street. This is my kind of, philosophical, theological discussion, which is... You know me. I'm a huge technocrat. Like, I am very firmly on the Stark family level of everything is achievable through technology. And I don't believe there should, generally speaking, day to day, I don't believe there should be limits to technology. This is a documentary that genuinely challenged that belief in me. And that's a moment for me. Like, that has, I don't think, ever happened for me before. I have never sat back in a documentary about any tech concept and said, okay.
Whoa, hang on.
Yeah.
This is real life. I thought this was all completely made up.
No, I said documentary. I did say documentary.
Wow, right. This is even better.
Yeah. So Black Mirror did it for fiction. This is a documentary. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, on the one hand, first of all, it's an excellent documentary. As a film in its own right, as a documentary, it's brilliant. It's a fascinating documentary that I think gives you every side of the debate around it, and there is a debate to be had around it. There truly is, because, as I say, if you can't immediately see from my description alone let alone the clip, but if you can't immediately see the moral quandaries that we're talking about here, the potential for this to go so spectacularly wrong, which is, to be fair, the case with anything involving AI, a technology that really needs legislation that we simply cannot allow into the world unregulated. I mean, it's been... How long has it been since the movie Transcendence? It's been 10 years this year since the movie Transcendence. None of us want Johnny Depp in a computer trying to destroy the world. And we are getting so much closer to it. So, when you get to the level that we are talking about in this documentary, and I say, we are there. As we are told in this documentary, we are now, with artificial intelligence, exactly where we were with social media about 15 years ago. That's a terrifying prospect, because you and I, obviously, we live in the reality of, especially working in broadcast media, we very much are in the reality of, we know what happened with social media. You don't need to tell us. We're good. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, the world went to hell in the handbasket. Yeah. And the idea that this was, something that is only going to get worse, we're going to see a worse version of this, is horrifying. If you do not see how weaponizable this technology, the idea of creating a synthetic duplicate of a human being, albeit I appreciate this is for mental health benefits, this is for grieving, this is for mental health. I understand, but this is something that so needs regulating. There was a sequence in this. Have you ever seen the viral video of the South Korean woman in the MetaQuest helmet interacting in virtual reality with her dead daughter? Have you seen that video at all?
No.
She's a little girl. She's like 4 or 5. This little girl. She passed away, and the people behind the technology, they filmed both inside and outside of virtual reality. We are shown in the documentary that this went viral. This got something like 40 million views. The company was inundated with requests the minute they saw it, but it was also inundated with criticism after as well. This woman who just broke, She put the helmet on, as she says herself, like, I didn't expect I wasn't really feeling anything coming here. I didn't know what to expect. And it's only now, as I'm about to put the helmet on, I'm starting to feel nervous. And she is then put in front of a virtual duplicate, complete with the personality of her deceased daughter. And she breaks. She absolutely breaks. And I felt it. You feel it. Every step of the way. There are people in this that I understand completely. Like, believe me, 1,000%. I would be the first in line. Like, we've all lost people. Everybody has a lost person. I'm getting choked up actually thinking about it. We all have a person in our history, in our lives, that we would give anything to see again. Like, God knows I do. We all do. And it's that question, isn't it? At what point? At what point are you not helping? At what point are you providing an addiction? At what point are you then actually not healthy? You are providing something that is the exact, you are providing the unhealthy option. And this is where that goes. I could go further and start thinking about what happens when incels start duplicating ex-girlfriends that rejected them and creating revenge porn and things like that. There's, like I say, so much weaponizable potential in this technology. And it is something that, as we are shown in the documentary that got put before the US Senate, this is something that very firmly needs, regulation. This is something that needs to be locked down. We need to address this now before it gets bad. But the documentary is wonderful. The documentary is brilliant. I really loved this. You have a screening link for it. I'm very much looking forward to what happens when you catch this. Most of it's in English, but obviously because the third company, for instance, is based in South Korea, obviously there's a subtitle portion to it. Do be prepared. You will cry a lot. You will also be angry. You will be angry, and you will be moved, and you will be sad. All three. Those three beats will hit you a lot. This is 86 minutes long, and I'll be really honest, when the credits rolled on it, I found myself thinking, oh, Lord, I would have gone for another half an hour. It didn't feel it. It felt about half the time it ran for. It was fascinating. And if you ever saw that Hayley Atwell, Donald Gleason episode of Black Mirror, look this up. This is the real version.
Well, there you go. Really serious point to this one. If you want to go and see it, you can. It's called Eternal You, and it's in cinemas from today. And I am really looking forward to watching it. Right, still to come. Kinds of Kindness in just a bit. And in just a moment, we are going to head over to see the one and only Kevin Costner, Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1. We'll see what Van thought of that. And he's making symbols at me, which I know what he's going to say next. But you don't. We'll find out in a minute.
And now it's time for a segment we like to call Off-Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Van. So, what's going on?
Ain't nothing going on but the rent. You know how it is. Now, we're talking about the artificial intelligence documentary Eternal You this week. So, obviously, we know something about AI. But what about the kids in your life? Do they know about AI? Luckily, our sponsors this week have you covered with the AI for Kids podcast. The podcast that breaks down complex AI concepts into fun and engaging episodes perfect for kids of all ages, making it accessible, entertaining, and inspiring for your loved ones to learn about AI without having to resort to the sort of nerdy science fiction references that I do. Each episode of the AI for Kids podcast sees experts in the field dive into fascinating topics like machine learning, robotics, and the future of AI, all tailored to spark young imaginations, with special guests, exciting projects, and interactive challenges, keeping the learning dynamic and hands-on. Imagine blending education with entertainment to make AI concepts easy and enjoyable, whilst learning from professionals in AI and tech as they share their knowledge and experiences and invite listeners to participate in challenges and projects that can be tried at home. It's perfect for the kids, fun for the parents too, and even useful for educators, all looking to explore AI together. So whether you're a curious kid eager to learn about robots and algorithms, or a parent looking to understand the technology shaping your child's future, AI for Kids is the go-to source for all things AI. So join the adventure into the future on all good podcast platforms today with the AI for Kids podcast. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome back to part 3 of Off Screen. We've still got Kinds of Kindness to look at in a moment, but we're going to head into Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1, which of course has got Kevin Costner in. Talk to me, Van. I don't really know a lot about this, to be honest.
Right, okay, some backstory for you. In 1988, at the height of his stardom, Kevin Costner, probably the biggest star in Hollywood at that point, happened upon a little script called Horizon that he really, really loved. And he thought, this would make a good movie for me. And he tried to get it made, and it wasn't going to happen. And then he tried, and he tried, and he tried, and it didn't happen. And then in 2003, when Open Range, his Western of that moment, which I believe was his fourth Western. That was his fourth Western at that point. When his fourth Western had opened, Open Range, he then decided, I'll go to Disney, the people who've made this one, and I'll see if they want to do it. But they weren't up for it either. So he kept trying, and he kept trying, and he kept trying. Flash forward to the the early 2020s, when Kevin Costner was a star on Yellowstone. You know, the Taylor Sheridan TV series, which is like, I think, if you look this up, it's like it was the biggest thing on television. It was actually the biggest show on TV in the last few years. Like, it's huge.
Wow.
Apparently, it's keeping Paramount Plus afloat single-handedly, this show. This is Paramount Plus that have, all the Star Treks and all the Lord of the Rings, all that stuff. They are being kept afloat by Taylor Sheridan in Yellowstone. He then, one day, about, a couple of years ago, quit. They took a mid-season break through the fifth season, and Kevin Costner, the bigged star of a show so big that its spin-off has Harrison Ford as its star, he got up and quit. He said, enough, I'm out, I'm done, I want to go and do this now. And that because they simply wouldn't amend the schedule to allow him to make this, he decided that since nobody was going to make it, he would take $38 million of his own money and make it himself. Not only would he make it, he would write it, rewrite it at this stage, direct it, produce it, star in it. He did bloody everything. He even put his own son in it. That's how much of a Costner vehicle this is. And you know what the man went and did with that? He made maybe the best of the Westerns. The best modern Western I've seen in years. Anyway, I'm burying the lead. So, Horizon, an American Chapter, Part 1, is a 3-hour and 1 minute long movie that is part 1 of 4. We're getting 3 more of these. The second opens in August, and it is ostensibly about the founding of a small town called Horizon. Hence the clever title. In the San Pedro Valley in Arizona, just before the American Civil War. So they're in Arizona, so they are nicely removed from the Civil War. This is basically doing the cowboy stuff as the Civil War is happening. Now, the entire story is going to take place over 15 years, but within the context of this first movie, I think we really only get a few months of that. It feels like a few months. And it is about disconnected stories and characters that all sort of relate to this town. It doesn't quite come together because, as I say, it's part 1 of 4. So you have to believe that by the time we get to the end of part 4, this thing's going to be Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? It's all going to link together. This thing's going to be the MCU by the time it's done. You have characters who going back. So this town starts to get founded. I think it's about 1859 this town gets founded. We literally see the first man arrive in this barren bit of desert and start to make his first cabin. And he's played by Angus McFadden from Braveheart. You know, the would-be king from Braveheart, the guy who should be Robert the Bruce? Plays Robert the Bruce in Braveheart. Famously that terrible not sequel to Braveheart. He's the first guy who sets up the town. You then jump forward a little bit in time to when the town is slightly more developed, like it has families, there's a community, maybe a couple hundred people live there. They've all bought their land and then got in the wagon train and gone out to where Horizon is going to be, and they've set up their homes. Only for this place to be ransacked, raided, and literally burned to the ground by the Apache Indians. As we are saying this, but the indigenous people, but within the context of the language of the people within the movie, they are referred to as the Apache Indians, regardless of political correctness, etc. This is set in the 19th century, remember. And to be fair, that's about as dark as they go with that. On the back of this town being dropped to the ground, you then have the story of a mother and her daughter who survive the attack, who then go and live on an army base. The sort of savior army, the cavalry come in, they go and live with the army, and they start to rebuild their lives. You have the men who have survived that attack, who then start to go out looking for vengeance, who go out to hunt the Apache. You've also got then, of course, you've got Kevin Costner, who seems to be a sort of wandering jobsman, really. He's simply a man on horseback taking any work he can get. He claims to be a horse trader, but there's some ambiguity to it. He finds himself falling afoul of this criminal family, going on the run with a prostitute and a young child who they sort of inherit when their parents are murdered. There are different stories, and they all, as I say, trace back to the town of Horizon for 3 hours and 1 minute, part 1 of 4. And do you know what? I know that sounds daunting, but I promise you, this thing is a banger. Have a listen.
You and I are standing guard in one of the last great open spaces.
That looks like a promising place.
The place I might be able to see myself. You just have to stand at the river, and you can see what the men and the women up there see. That's what drove us across the ocean to this country in the first place. Hope.
Lieutenant, there's no reason for you to stay here. And here you are.
So do you think that Kevin Costner has pushed everything he's got into this for a 4-part, 9-hour movie to make more money, or because he just has a massive passion for Westerns?
Well, first of all, 12 hours. It's good if they keep at this runtime.
Oh yeah, sorry,
12 hours long, which means that Kevin Costner will consume half of a bloody day to tell this story. And do you know what? I'm here for it. And I'm sorry, there ain't nobody out here rocking it like Kev. And to quote an epic movie's title, we need to talk about Kevin. He's not doing this for any other reason, it seems, other than this is a story he really wants to tell. And I can see why. I can get it. We've had this discussion. We had this discussion very recently with another Western. We talked about The Dead Don't Hurt. And I remember saying to why did Viggo Mortensen feel that this was a story he really needed to tell? I'm unsure. When you see Horizon, okay, I get it. Now, by virtue of the fact that Open Range was, I think by my count, I may be wrong, his 4th Western, it's very obvious that Costner has a major thing for a very specific period of American history. And when you see this one, it's then even clearer that his mandate here is, I'm going to give you the ultimate one. I'm going to give you the Western that you watch and you don't need another. This is it. Watch this one. You don't need to watch any of the rest. You know, screw Eastwood and John Wayne. No, I've got this. I have covered every possible asset that you could mine from the Old West. And he does it very, very well. Like I say, I mean, we know that Costner's a great director. He has Oscars for directing a Western as well. You know, the man literally won an Oscar for directing a Western. There's no man alive that could pull this off except for maybe Clint Eastwood, and he's now too old. And then you get to a point about 65 minutes into this movie, literally 60, because we counted, 65 minutes in which Costner finally turns up on screen. And the man still got it. The man still has it. He still has that movie star charisma, that classic late 80s nobody like it. Pre-Cruise movie star charisma. The man has it in spades. I don't know what the hell was in the Kool-Aid at Cannes and what the critics that came out at the Cannes screening were on. I mean, I hope it was a particular kind of vape pen that I haven't enjoyed yet. But whatever they saw does not match what I saw. We had a great time with this. Paul Ross, Stuart Armour, and I from Extra Time, the three of us from TalkSport, just united for this screening. It's the first time we've ever done this. Stuart and I have been to films before. It's the first time we've ever dragged Paul along to one. Warner Brothers head office, Tuesday morning. Paul loves a Western, and he gave this his seal of approval. If this got Paul Ross's seal of approval, the man who knows every Western on the back of his hand, there's him and Eamon Holmes. And I don't speak to him, and I don't anymore. I don't really know. But I have to imagine this is a film that even Eamon Holmes would fall out of his chair for. What a ride. Every vista, every sweeping image, it's so epic. It's wonderful. The characters are great. The cast on this thing. Costner, Sam Worthington, Sienna Miller, Luke Wilson, Will Patton, Michael Rooker, Danny Houston. I can go on. There are 99 people credited on IMDb for this. There are apparently 170 speaking roles in it. Of the crap actors that are in this, of which I am basically including Sam Worthington, Luke Wilson, Sienna Miller, they get the roles of their careers in this. The best roles of their careers. In a film that is brilliantly written, magically shot, looks like the sexiest Western you've ever damn seen. And then has, at the centre of it all, Kevin bloody Costner. Swaggering in like he owns the place, because he literally does now. It's his money. He literally owns the place. And 3 hours and a minute later, I came away thinking, I can't wait for part 2 or 3 or 4. Pour it in me. I'm here for it. I was the first person ready to smack talk this. But no, he did it. The mad git went and did it. And honestly, this is the ultimate dad movie. This is the film you take your dad to. I wish my dad was a nicer person that I could honestly stomach sitting in a room with him for 3 hours and a minute. Because this is the first thing I would be. Dude, we're going to see Horizon Part 1. We're going to see Horizon Part 1. This is going to be badass. It would be so... And he would have the time of his life. Honestly, they should have put this out a month ago so it was in cinemas for Father's Day. Or at least put it months previous so the DVD could be out for Father's Day. Because that's what this is. This might be one of the best dad movies ever made. I bloody love it. The second part's in August. I can't wait. I'm going to be first in line for it. If there's no press show, or this makes no money and the critics rag it like they seem to be, and it makes no money, and then no press shows, I'm going to fork down the ticket money myself, and I will go and see it. I thought this was great.
Well, you've sold it to me, and I don't think I really need to ask you what the film of the week is going to be, but we'll see in a moment what you choose in our next... Well, there you go. I mean, I don't think you've ever waxed lyrical about a movie quite as much as this one, so it's definitely on my list now.
We weren't reviewing when the first Iron Man opened, that's why. When the first Iron Man opened, believe me, you'd have heard something similar. Or Iron Man 3, for that matter, but still, Snowpiercer. If we'd reviewed Snowpiercer together, you'd have heard that.
Well, if you want to make your mind up, which it sounds like, if you trust Van, you're going to love it. Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 out in cinemas from today. Right, one left. We're going to look at Kinds of Kindness in just a minute. Stay where you are. Hello and welcome back then for our last ride on this week's Off-Screen. We are going to look at Kinds of Kindness. I don't really know a huge amount about this, apart from it's a comedy, right?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Adam. I've seen it, and I really don't know that much about it, because I was mostly uninterested for the entire 2 hours and 44 minutes that it unfolded on the screen. Which, just to put that in context for you, just to frame that in a very specific way, is 20 minutes shy of it's 17 minutes shy of Horizon and American Saga Part 1, the best film out this week. This would be the worst film out this week, and you feel every bloody second of those 2 hours and 44 minutes, I tell you. So, new film from Yorgos Lanthimos, which should be a reason to have a parade in the streets. We should actually have a full-blown circus parading down the street for the idea that 5 months after the release of Poor Things, Yorgos is back with another one. That should be a great thing. This very much feels like he thought, do you know, I've got a weekend free. Poor Things has just opened. Let's bung this out. It kind of feels like that. Anyway, I'm bearing the lead. It stars Emma Stone. It stars Jesse Plemons. It stars Margaret Qualley. Willem Dafoe is in there as well. I believe Hong Chow is in there. Am I missing anyone? Hang on. Margaret Qualley. Hong Chow. Yeah, Joe Alwyn, Taylor Swift's ex.
Oh, yes.
Poor bugger. But yeah, Taylor Swift's ex. Yeah, you know the one. Yeah, because why would you ever date Taylor Swift? Like, why would you as a sane adult man? Like, you meet her, and I'm sure she's charming as hell, but if she's you just wouldn't date her, because you know how it's going to go. You know when you inevitably mess up.
Every song's going to be written about you.
Yeah, you know, right? There's going to be a legion of, 15-year-old girls that want you dead. Like, why? Anyway, beside the point. So, all of these people, I'm sidebarring only because I had to make it home on a train on Sunday night, sorry. Through all of the fans coming back from the Taylor Swift gig. A lot of crop tops and cowgirl boots. You know what I mean? It was one of those. And I found myself on Tuesday morning thinking of poor Joe Alwyn, who... I don't know what he did, but I hope it was worth it. I just hope it was worth it, whatever he did. Beside the point, that's my TED talk on Taylor Swift. We're done. Anyway, so this takes the form of 3 mini films, effectively, that are then stitched together. They literally have opening and closing credits to each one of them, and you get 3 different stories that all star the same cast. So the same cast play different roles in each of the 3 stories. So in one story, you have Jesse Plemons as a man whose wife has been presumed dead, but then returns home, and she's very different. You've then got another story in which Jesse Plemons is a member of a cult that is run by Willem Dafoe, and he works with Emma Stone, who played the wife in the previous one, and they are looking for a specific person that's been prophesied to reanimate the dead. You've then got another person, and this is all set in the present day, and all shot by Yorgos. So it looks a certain way, it feels a certain way. The fisheye lens obviously is on full display. If you've ever seen The Favourite, for instance, you know how much Yorgos loves a fisheye lens. By the way, do not tweet at The Favourite. That is not the movie, that's my mate. Don't do that, it annoys the hell out of her. She had it first. But, yeah, it's all this sort of thing, and it's 3 disparate tales that don't really seem to have much connective tissue, but it's a Yorgos Lanthimos movie that stars Emma Stone. So, yeah, here's a clip.
Can I have a cigarette?
Sure. I didn't know you smoked, Liz.
I don't. I've never smoked. Can you believe that? I've never even tried. Just really felt like a cigarette. Should we all go upstairs to the bedroom?
I think it's best we don't go up to the bedroom tonight.
Come on, Daniel. That would be weird.
We'd better be getting home soon. Liz, look, you must be tired, and I have to be up early. But everything was wonderful tonight, though.
I think you're right. I think we should leave it for some other time. Maybe next time.
I'll clean up the plates.
So, is there anything you liked about this movie, then?
It ended. I mean, there's that. I liked that. I loved the bit when it ended. When it ended and I got to go outside and smoke a cigarette, that was phenomenal. That was an amazing feeling. No, the stuff I like. Some of the performances are actually pretty decent. I mean, obviously, none of this cast are ever going to phone it in. I mean, you think Willem Dafoe, Jesse Plemons, and Emma Stone are ever going to phone it in? Hong Chow from The Menu. You think she's ever going to phone it in? No. They all very firmly believe in the integrity of this project, I think, but it just feels very frivolous. It very much feels like a sort of, I got to chuck something out. But the weird thing is, it's been 5 months since Poor Things, which is a great movie. That's on my top 10 of the year. Like, I'm going to have to put out my top 10 of the year so far on July 1st, and I've been doing the list, and Poor Things is on there because it opened in January in the UK. But I just don't think you would ever mention this in the same breath as really any Yorgos movie before it. There's not one. It's far and away his least interesting film. Like, far and away his worst and least interesting movie. I was bored. I wasn't interested. I found a lot of the characters quite unlikable. I mean, despite how good the performances were, quite unlikable. The stories just had no bite, no gristle. And no, I just came away thinking, this is cardigan fodder. This is the crap that you show at Cannes to get people who work for The Guardian and The Times to give you 5-star reviews, remind people that you're the second coming, and that's it. No member of the public's ever going to pay to see this. Who the hell is it for? Like, it's not for anyone else except a film critic in their late 50s at a bloody festival, swanning it up, getting hammered on free wine, with sweaters tied around their necks and beige pants, wasting everybody's time. There's no appeal for this to anyone else whatsoever. So here's my recommendation. Don't goddamn watch it. Don't at all. It's the worst. It might be the worst thing that most of this cast have ever been in. And I mean, I'm sure if you go down the list, Emma Stone has been in worse movies, and Jesse Plemons probably has. Willem Dafoe certainly has, because I think to remember the Boondock Saints sequel being pretty ropey. But no, watch literally any other Yorgos Lanthimos movie ever. Go and watch Poor Things, The Favourite, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Watch any of those. And I promise your life will be richer. Even if you've seen them before, just watch them again. Your life will be richer than spending 2 hours and 44 minutes watching this absolute drivel. This absolute contemptible bilge. This shash. This absolute dog turd of a flick. This waste of my Monday morning. This absolute cancer of my time on this earth. This absolute waste of potential. No. No. This absolutely wasted a great director, a great cast, and to be fair, 3 pretty decent concepts. Kinds of Kindness might as well just be called Turds of Turdness. It is absolute crap.
Good to see you're not holding back, but if you would like to make your own mind up...
But I really like Horizon.
I mean, let's be honest, though, there has to be at least one clanger. You can't have... Very rarely do we have a week where all the movies are amazing, and obviously this week is your clanger, Kinds of Kindness, which, if you want to just double-check, fact-check what Van has said about it, you can, because it's in cinemas from today.
Take your own loo roll. Take your own loo roll if you're going to. That's all I'm saying.
I don't really need to ask this question, but movie of the week, what are you going for?
My film of the week, I mean, obviously, Horizon. I think Horizon is absolutely brilliant. And I'm not a Western guy. I'm not someone that loves Westerns.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily the biggest Costner. I mean, I didn't realise how much of a Costner fan I was until I saw this, and I was listening to The Big Picture the other day, and they were going through the filmography. It's not until you look back on the body of work that you think, oh, he was Tom Cruise before Cruise. I mean, only just before Cruise, like just. But yeah.
Does it have, in the movie, in Horizon, does it have those incredible sound effects of, like, the leather creaking and the wood creaking when they walk on the floor? Because I love all of that in Westerns. Like, that does it for me.
Because the first half hour of Horizon is the Apache fighting force attacking the town and basically burning it to the ground. And we largely see it from the perspective of this family and their sort of friends from the community, barricaded in their stone house, under siege, like literally just, shooting the rifles out of slits in the windows. And it plays like something from, the War on Terror or Iraq or Afghanistan. And it's harrowing. He really sells both the romance and the horror of the Old West. And I can very much see how Kevin Costner, being the age he is, coming from the background that he does, from where he does, because he's a California-born man in his 60s, he was born at a very certain time. You can see why he is so in love with the Old West. You can really feel it.
Brilliant. Well, I'm really glad that you enjoyed that, and you've sold it to me just as much as you've sold Eternal You. So that's me sorted off from my COVID bed for the next few days. Let's just have a quick nosy at what we've got coming up next week. Younger. I don't even know anything about this one.
I'll be really honest, because we were quite rushed, I didn't get to look these up, so I don't really know that much about Younger. I don't know much about Younger, and I don't know much about the nature of love either. I mean, there's a statement of my life right there. But two films that are out next week that I do know a lot about. I mean, one I have seen, one I have not. I'm going to see it on Monday night. The first one, I'm going to see this on Monday night. I'm going to the premiere at Curzon, is Maxine with Mia Goth. And this is the third part of the Weird Unlikely film series that began with X and then continued with Pearl. And this is the third chapter, in which it's sort of a 1980s Hollywood set porn industry psycho slasher that also features, in an acting role, Halsey, who I think is just one of the sexiest human beings alive. And the one that I have seen, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you about, is a new Indian action movie called Kill, which is basically you can describe this as The Raid on a train with a little bit of that Bollywood cheese. Best way to describe this. And oh my God, this thing is brutal. Like, good Lord. Oh.
I knew it'd have to be brutal for you to compare it to The Raid.
No, I'm sorry. You haven't seen The Raid yet, so until you've seen a man's face shoved through the wooden splinters of a broken apartment door, you've not lived. The Raid is one of the most sadistic, brutal horror movies ever made, and yet it's an action movie. It's phenomenal. Please, whilst you are, debilitatingly passing away from COVID here, please do watch The Raid. Honestly, you are going to text me the minute you finish and thank me. You're going to apologise to me for wasting so many years of my breath telling you to watch The Raid. That I promise you're going to show it to friends.
I feel like we need to have
The Raid.
I feel no, he hasn't. But I was just about to say, I feel like we need to have a movie night, a lads' movie night at mine, and watch it on the big screen here, full surround sound on, snacks, pizza, and just do it together. Because then I won't be tempted to turn it off.
Yeah, you know what? You, me, Johnny, round my gaff. We're getting the pizzas in 90-inch UHD, baby. Come on, we're going 4K Raid. Let's do this.
Right, deal. All right, we will. And then I will absolutely watch it. It's a way of doing it for me. Cool. All right, well, those are all what we've got coming up next week. We've had some absolute stormers this week, so enjoy them if you're going to go out and watch them in the cinemas. That is all we have time for this time round. We'll be back next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and this is your reminder, cinemas have air conditioning.